Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks.
My name is Karen. And if you had walked into my kitchen that morning, you'd think a tornado hit the place. But it wasn't a storm that wrecked my world, it was my own daughter. You used my name. I screamed, slamming the thick envelope onto the table, paper flying everywhere. A $750,000 loan. Rachel, have you completely lost your mind? Rachel didn't even flinch. She just rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. Relax, Mom. It's not like it's real debt, it's just paperwork. Everyone does this kind of stuff. Rich people game the system all the time. You took out a mortgage on my house. I roared. You signed my name, forged my ID, you committed federal fraud. Her boyfriend, Jason, lounging on my couch like he paid the bills around here, finally spoke up. Okay, calm down. You're acting like this is some crime. It is a crime, I snapped, turning toward him. And you encouraged this, didn't you? I saw your name on the paperwork too. You two pulled this together. Jason just smirked. I mean, if you actually took care of your daughter, instead of working 2 jobs and ignoring her, maybe she wouldn't have had to do this. That was it. The slap echoed through the room before I could even think twice. Rachel jumped up, eyes wide. Did you just hit Jason? No, I said, trembling. I hit the leech who convinced my daughter to steal from her own mother. Rachel stood between us like a wall, her voice shrill and shaking. You've always hated him. You think I don't see that? Just admit it, or jealous. I have someone who believes in me. Jealous, I gasped. Jealous of what? Of a girl who thinks being a criminal is cute. Of a mother who's about to lose her house because her daughter wanted a quick lifestyle upgrade. The words hit like knives, and I saw her jaw tighten. But I wasn't finished. Not even close. You think just because I struggled my whole life, you're entitled to everything I built? I asked. I worked 20 years at that hospital. I skipped vacations, holidays, even your school plays, Rachel, even your plays, so I could pay off this house. It was supposed to be yours one day, after I was gone. I didn't want to wait until you're gone. She shouted back. You act like you did all this for me, but you never even looked at me when I was growing up. You were always too tired, too angry, too busy surviving to be a mom. Her voice cracked at that last word. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about money. This was years of resentment, bubbling up in the worst possible way. But I couldn't let that excuse what she'd done. And your solution, I said quietly, was to take everything from me without even asking. She folded her arms. I did it for us? No, Rachel, you did it for you. I grabbed my coat. And now I have to go fix what you broke again. They say, betrayal doesn't hurt unless it comes from someone you love. And let me tell you something. That morning, standing in the ruins of my kitchen, staring into my daughter's defiant eyes, I didn't just feel hurt. I felt erased. Like the years I spent fighting to give her a better life meant nothing. But what I didn't know then was that the $750,000 loan wasn't even the worst part. Because the truth, that unbearable, shattering truth, was still waiting. And when it came out, it didn't just destroy my trust. It tore apart everything I thought I knew about the child I raised. If you think forging a loan in her own mother's name was bad, wait until you hear what else my daughter was hiding. Don't scroll. Stay with me. Because in the next few minutes, you're going to find out how deep betrayal can really go. And why sometimes, The worst wounds come from the ones we gave everything to. Asterisk. It was exactly 5 days after that fight when the knock came. You know the kind that doesn't stop after the first 3 taps. The kind that means business. I was still in my robe, sipping bitter coffee that didn't touch the exhaustion in my bones. I opened the door, and 2 men in suits stood there. One tall, one shorter, both with clipboards and stern expressions that immediately made my stomach twist. Karen Douglas. The taller one asked. I nodded slowly, my heart starting to race. We're from Hillside Financial Recovery. We're here on behalf of First Property Bank. I'm afraid this is in regard to the foreclosure proceedings on this home. I laughed. I genuinely laughed. A sharp, disbelieving sound that caught in my throat like a splinter. Excuse me, foreclosure. This house is paid off. I've owned it outright for 3 years. The short one looked down at his clipboard and read something aloud, every word like a hammer driving into my chest. Mortgage taken out in your name. Second line of credit. Total loan balance, $752,330.81. My hand flew to my mouth. The world spun sideways. I reached for the doorframe to keep from falling. This has to be a mistake, I stammered. I didn't take out any loan. I didn't sign anything. The taller man didn't flinch. Ma'am, your signature is on file, ID verified, income documented. If there's been identity fraud, you'll need to file a police report and dispute it legally. But as of now, the house is collateral. You have 30 days to resolve the debt or vacate the property. They handed me a yellow envelope. I stared at it like it might catch fire in my hands. By the time they left, my hands were shaking. I tore open the paperwork. Right there on the living room floor. And there it was, plain as day, my name, my address, my driver's license. All attached to a massive home equity loan application, dated just 3 months ago. And the signature, it looked like mine. It had my loops, my slant. But I didn't write it. I knew I didn't. That's when my eyes scanned down to the co-signer.json. Jason Robert Ellis. I dropped the papers. The room was spinning again. I called Rachel 17 times. She didn't pick up, so I drove. Didn't even change out of my robe. I grabbed my purse and drove straight to the address I once found on a credit card bill she tried to hide from me. Some condo Jason's cousin was letting them crash in rent-free. When she opened the door, she barely looked up from her phone. You can't just show up here, Mom. I didn't step inside. I stormed in. We're being evicted. Rachel, did you know that? She blinked. What? The bank. Foreclosure. You used my house to get your loan. And guess what? They're coming for it. They gave me 30 days, Rachel, 30. She crossed her arms. That doesn't make any sense. We weren't supposed to get the full loan until next quarter. Jason said the paperwork wasn't finalized. Oh, it was finalized. I cut in, waving the papers in her face. Stamped, filed, processed, and signed. Forged with my name. Did you seriously think I wouldn't find out? She opened her mouth, but no words came. You told them I had a business, I whispered. That I made 6 figures running a consulting firm. That I was investing in your crypto startup. You and Jason. You created a whole fake life with my name. Mom, please, she said, suddenly looking 12 years old again. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I felt something crack inside me. A soundless snap, like the last string holding me together. Not meaning to doesn't erase what you did. I turned and looked around the condo, half furnished, cheap art on the walls, no food in the fridge. Where is the money, Rachel? What did you two even spend it on? She was quiet. Too quiet. Answer me. I shouted. Her eyes filled with tears. Jason used it. He said he could triple it in 6 weeks with crypto and NFTs. He promised he said I'd finally have a life that wasn't just waiting tables and wearing your hand-me-downs. My heart dropped. You gave the whole amount to him. She nodded, and in that moment, I saw it all so clearly. She wasn't the mastermind. She was the pawn. Jason played her. And she played me. I turned toward the door. I'll get it back. She cried out. Mom, I'll fix it. I'll make it right. I swear. I stopped in the doorway and looked back at her, my voice hoarse. No, Rachel, you won't. I will. When you're a parent, you believe your sacrifices mean something. That the nights you go without sleep, the dreams you give up, the money you don't spend on yourself, that it all builds a better life for your child. But sometimes, the ones we raise grow up believing that love is a resource they can exploit. That loyalty is just a thing to be tested. I thought I had already lost everything when Rachel forged that loan. But I was wrong. The truth was still unraveling. And when it did, it would show me that betrayal doesn't just come with signatures and lies. Sometimes, it comes with blood. She gave the money to Jason, but what Rachel didn't know was that Jason had a plan of his own. The scam wasn't over, it was just beginning. Stay with me because, in the next few minutes, you're going to find out how the man she trusted turned all of us into victims, and how I had to make a choice no mother ever should. I didn't go home that night. ICOULD in single quotes. Instead, I sat in my car in the supermarket parking lot, engine off, keys in my lap, watching people go about their lives. Happy couples pushing carts, parents picking snacks for their kids. Everyone had a destination, everyone but me. I dialed Jason, not once, not twice, 9 times. He finally answered on the 10th. Karen, he said, like he was expecting me to be polite. Like we were old friends grabbing coffee, not a woman whose life he had just torn in two. I know everything, I said flatly. The loan, the signature, the crypto scam, everything. He went silent for a beat. Then he sighed. Look, this is a misunderstanding. I can come over, explain it face to face. It's not what you think. That's what liars say, right? Before they make it worse. He laughed, soft and smug. That laugh told me everything I needed to know. He didn't think he'd done anything wrong. He thought I was another Mark. Another idiot woman who'd believe whatever he sold next. Just tell me, I said, my voice shaking. Why my name? Why my house? Why not your own family? Because your daughter let me, he replied. And you're too soft. You'd never report her. You'll yell, cry, maybe even threaten, but in the end, you won't press charges. Because you're her mother, and you always forgive her. There it was. The truth in his own words. The way he weaponized my love for my daughter like it was a weakness. Like my loyalty was liability. Do you even love her? I whispered. He scoffed. Rachel's convenient. That's what love is now, right? Utility. If she left tomorrow, there'd be another one waiting by Friday. I clenched my jaw. She gave you everything, Jason. She bet her whole future on you. She bet your future, he said coldly. Big difference. And then he hung up. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't heartbroken, but because the part of me that could cry had already been wrung dry. I drove straight to my sister's house that night. I hadn't spoken to her in over a year, not since our argument over Rachel and how I was enabling her. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just made tea, pulled out a blanket, and let me sleep on the couch. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "You don't know me, but I need to talk to you. It's about Jason and Rachel. I'm sorry in advance. Erica." I stared at it for a full 5 minutes. Then I replied, "Where?" She sent an address. A tiny bookstore, cafe, downtown. I went. She was already there when I arrived. Late 20s. Sharp eyes. Nervous fingers twisting the sleeve of her cardigan. "Karen?" she asked. I nodded, and we sat. "I don't even know how to say this," she began. "But I've been dating Jason for about 8 months." I blinked. 8 months. She nodded slowly. "I didn't know about Rachel until 2 weeks ago. I thought he was divorced. Said his wife stole money from him and ruined his credit. He played the victim. I believed everything. I said nothing. Just let her talk. I found out about you when I saw the loan documents in his briefcase. I recognized your name. Rachel's name. It didn't make sense. So I started digging. And then I saw he used my identity to take out a credit card. Bought himself a new phone, laptop. Even used it to book a weekend in Miami with someone else, not even me." She took out her phone and showed me screenshots, texts, transactions, photos. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally asked. "Because I want to stop him," she said, "and I can't do it alone. But you can. You're the only one with the legal power to blow this open. Especially since it was your house he risked." Her voice cracked. "I loved him, and now I'm just one of the girls he used." I reached across the table and took her hand. "You're not alone." Narrator, monologue. Some betrayals feel like sharp knives to the back, but others, they bleed you slowly, quietly, so that by the time you realize the damage, you've already lost too much. Rachel gave her love to the wrong man, and I gave my trust to the wrong daughter. But Erica, she gave me something I hadn't felt in a long time. Clarity. It was time to stop reacting. Time to act. I went home that night and did what mothers pray they never have to. I filed a police report, named my daughter, named her boyfriend. I handed them the forged documents, the fraudulent loan, the signature proof, the stolen identity trail. And I told the truth. The officer listened, asked if I was sure. I nodded once, steadily, because I was done being the victim in someone else's story. 2 weeks passed. Then the detectives called. They had Jason in custody. Apparently, my report wasn't the only one. 3 other women had come forward. A fourth one, pregnant, was missing. They found stolen passports, fake IDs, a burner phone with contacts labeled things like Crypto Mark, Easy Target, and Karen Free House. I stared at the screen, my heart sinking lower than I ever thought possible. But the worst part was when I asked about Rachel. Was she part of it? I asked the officer. He looked at me with pity. She wasn't just part of it. "Ma'am," he said softly. "She helped him recruit them. You thought the boyfriend was the problem. What if I told you my own daughter was the real architect of the scam?" The truth I uncovered, next, destroyed every shred of faith I had left. Stay with me. Because in the next chapter, I confront her with the evidence, and what she says. It changes everything. Asterisk, my name is Karen. And the day I confronted my daughter was the day I buried the version of her I thought I knew. She came into the station on her own. Not in handcuffs, not dragged, no tears. Just walking in like she was heading to the DMV, casual, confident, cold. They let us speak privately before the formal questioning began. Said it might help clear things up. I thought maybe, just maybe, this was all some twisted misunderstanding. That she'd cry. That she'd hug me. That she'd say he manipulated her. That she'd say sorry instead. Rachel sat down across from me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. So, she said, folding her hands, I guess you finally figured it out. I couldn't breathe for a second. It felt like someone had sucked all the air out of the room. You knew what he was doing, I whispered. She tilted her head. Of course, I knew. I helped him. You don't get $750,000 by being nice and clueless. That kind of money takes work. My voice trembled. Work. Rachel, you stole from me. You lied. You put our home, your childhood home, the line for a con artist. She laughed. No, Mom. I upgraded our lives. You were the one. Stuck in your little moral bubble. Working double shifts. Clipping coupons. Stressing over bills. I got tired of watching you struggle when there were faster ways to win. By hurting people. By surviving. She snapped. You think Jason was my first plan? No. He was just the first smart one. The first who listened. The first who understood we weren't meant to live small. I stood up, heart pounding. I raised you to be better than this. I gave you everything. I took extra shifts for your braces. I skipped meals so you could have your school trips. I gave up my life so you could build yours. And look where that got you, she said. Coldly. An old woman sitting in a police station, broke, with nothing to show for it but bitterness. I stared at her. Not the girl I rocked to sleep. Not the teenager who cried when she didn't get into her dream college. Not the daughter who used to draw cards saying Mommy is my hero. This was someone else. Someone sharper, harder, emptier. Did you ever love me? I asked. Her eyes flickered for the first time. But the answer still came too fast. I loved the version of you who didn't get in the way. Narrator, monologue. Betrayal is one thing, but betrayal from your own blood. That carves a different kind of scar. Rachel didn't just take my money. She took my trust, my peace, my past. And right there in that sterile room, I realized my daughter never saw me as a mother. She saw me as a resource. I left the room. Without another word. They booked her 2 hours later. Accessory to fraud. Identity theft. Wire fraud. Conspiracy. The bail was set high. Too high. Even Jason couldn't cover it. And for the first time in her life, Rachel had to face consequences without me swooping in to save her. But the damage didn't stop there. I lost the house. The bank took it. All of it. I packed everything into a storage unit the size of a closet. Left the keys in the mailbox. Walked away from 23 years of memories. You don't know what real heartbreak is until you look at the pencil marks on the doorframe that measured your daughter's growth and realize she measured your love in dollars. A week after the arraignment, I got another message. From Erica, she wanted to meet again. Said it was urgent. This time, she brought a man with her, mid-30s, lawyer, slick suit, but kind eyes. He opened a folder, and what he showed me next. It changed everything again. You thought the worst was over. No. The real story was just beginning. Because Rachel and Jason weren't working alone. There was a third name on the paperwork. Someone I once trusted more than anyone in the next chapter. You'll see who really pulled the strings behind the $750,000 scam. And the twist. They were sitting at my Thanksgiving table for years. My name is Karen. And I thought losing my daughter was the worst thing that could ever happen to me until I learned who taught her how to steal from me in the first place. When Erica brought that man into the coffee shop, I didn't expect much. I thought it was legal follow-up, some paperwork, or maybe a small update about Jason's frozen assets. But the moment he opened the folder, my blood ran cold. It wasn't more fraud evidence, it was a signature. My husband's, not Jason's, not Rachel's. My ex-husband, Michael. And not from years ago either. Not some old mortgage or loan application. I'd forgotten. No. This one was dated 9 months before Rachel stole my identity. Wait, what is this? I asked, my hands trembling as I scanned the documents. The lawyer leaned forward gently. It's the original business registration for an LLC. The name listed under silent investor, Michael Grayson, your ex-husband, and Jason Miller was listed as managing partner. I looked at Erica, she nodded. I didn't believe it at first either, she said. But I did the digging. Your daughter didn't just fall into Jason's world. She was introduced to him by her own father. My knees buckled. I had to sit down. The man I had divorced 15 years ago. The man who had walked out on us when Rachel was still in elementary school. The man who used to swear he didn't care about money. Had been coaching my daughter, setting her up, using her name, her charm, her access to get to me. And suddenly it all made sense. The strange visits Rachel would make during college breaks to catch up with Dad. The private phone calls. One time she slipped and said, Dad said you'd never notice. I had thought she meant something innocent, but no, they were planning this for years. Narrator voice. You raise a child with all the love in your bones. You stay up all night when they're sick. You go without so they can have more. But if someone poisons their heart early enough, you lose them long before the betrayal even begins. I didn't just lose Rachel to Jason. I lost her to Michael, the man I once trusted with my life. I remember confronting him. I tracked down his office, some sleazy real estate corner suite in Miami. I didn't call. I didn't text. I walked straight in. He looked up from his desk like I was just another errand. Karen, he said, pretending to be surprised. What brings you here? You know what? I said. My voice didn't shake. Not this time. You used her. He leaned back, exhaled slowly, then said the words that made my stomach twist. Used her. No, Karen. I educated her. I slapped the folder on the desk. Educated her to scam her own mother. To risk jail time for your greed. He didn't even flinch. You always raised her to play small. I taught her how the world really works. And if you weren't so stubborn, maybe you'd be sitting on a beach right now instead of whining in courtrooms. You let her take out a loan in my name. She agreed. She's not a child anymore, Karen. She made her choice. My fists clenched. I hope it was worth it, I said. Because you just turned your daughter into a criminal. Michael shrugged. You'll forgive her. You always do. That's your problem. You confuse love with enabling. No, I said. I confused you with a decent human being. Never again. And with that, I walked out. Not just of his office, but of any illusion that Rachel would come back to me one day. Because if Michael was the one pulling her strings, she never stood a chance. Narrator, reflection. Sometimes, the ones who hurt us the most aren't strangers or enemies. They're the ones who once said I love you, who once promised forever. But when the masks come off, you realize they were always waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But here's what they didn't count on. Me surviving. I worked with the fraud team. We traced the paper trail. We proved Michael's involvement. And within 2 months, he was indicted. Jason, Rachel, Michael. All three of them were charged. And for the first time in years, I stood alone. But I stood strong. Yes. I lost my house. Yes. My name was dragged through courtrooms and headlines. Yes. The world I knew came crashing down. But guess what? They lost more. Because they lost me. My love. My loyalty. My forgiveness. And as I rebuilt my life, slowly, painfully, brick by brick, I realized something. I may not have millions. I may not have family photos on a mantle anymore, but I have something none of them will ever understand. Peace. Because when the storm finally passes, the ones left standing are the ones who had nothing but still chose truth. Final monologue, call to action. If you're watching this and someone has betrayed you, know this. You are not alone. You are not weak for loving them. You are not stupid for trusting them. But you are strong for standing back up after they tried to break you. And as for my daughter, she still writes me letters from prison. I read them, but I haven't written back, because some debts can't be repaid with words.